What's going on, people? LP2000 right back at you with another video. Yes. Welcome back to another edition of Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Collectible Monsters. And woo! We are finally here. We are so finally here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. If you saw my last video of the awesome statue courtesy of Spiral Studios and their legacy line in the amazing GMK Godzilla, I teased at the very end of that video that the next video will be about a certain gigantic size collectible of a villain from 1975 that I was able to acquire for myself. And here we are. Here's the villain. He's from 1975. He is so gigantic size, and yes, I'm so happy to get this video out for y'all today. So you know what? Let's stop procrastinating. Let's dive head first into this awesome gigantic size statue review. And today we're taking a look at the gigantic size 3D printed statue of everybody's favorite super dinosaur from 1975's Terror Mechagodzilla, controlled by the evil Dr. Mifune, the one and the only Titanosaurus. As you can see, I have the beautiful model kit, or the statue, I should say, 3D printed statue, if you will, of the awesome super dinosaur known as Titanosaurus. Oh God, this thing is so amazing. Again, you're gonna hear a lot. You're gonna hear that a lot during the course of this video. But again, I'm glad to finally get this video out. I know a lot of people have been asking me about this statue and asking about where I got it, how I got it, who made it, all that good stuff, and all those questions will be answered in this video for you today. So yeah, just looking at it and feeling it, whew, I can't believe I have it here. It is so amazing. All right, so let me give a huge shout out and thank you to several people for making this video and this model kit, at least 3D printed statue acquisition, happen. First and foremost, Kenny Kurtz. He's the one that's behind the sculpt. He's the one that actually 3D print the sculpt. You know, also Marcellus Winters. Oh my God, one of my best friends in the world. You know what I'm saying? You have heard his name on my channel most recently in regards to building and painting model kits. You know what I'm saying? You know, his work is so stellar. You know, he has made some great stuff for me, like the KOC 40 centimeter 1954 Godzilla kit. Oh my God, that was such an epic piece that he put together for me. Or the 25 centimeter or 30 centimeter Resin Chef 1972 resin model kit of King Ghidorah. Oh my God, that was an epic piece he put together. Or how about the one that I was able to acquire for myself this year with the gigantic size model kit of the Tenjitsu Crafts 55 centimeter 1984 Godzilla. Oh my God, it seems like each piece of work that he does, Marcellus, it gets better and better. His skill keeps getting better and better, and he's able to topple the work that he did before, you know, with his latest work, you know. So again, I want to thank you to Marcellus for making that happen. Also, his beautiful and awesome wife, Ledejeuner, she actually helped paint this thing, you know. And also Tamiko Richardson, who is, I think, a sound girl and is a valuable member of Marcellus Church, because, you know, Marcellus not only is a great model kit builder and painter, but he's also a pastor, a motivational speaker, and Miss Richardson actually helps him out in his church. So all those wonderful people actually had a hand in making this Titanosaurus statue. So again, thank you all so much for making this happen. Now, again, this is a gigantic size statue of Titanosaurus. Let me get the stats out of the way right now. He is 25 inches tall. At the time of this recording, he is the biggest gigantic size statue, or the biggest statue of, or biggest collectible piece of Titanosaurus himself that is out there right now. Yes, there are a lot of Titanosaurus pieces out there. X Plus, model kits, marmot, parababies, whatever you want to call it. But this is by far the biggest, the absolute biggest collectible of Titanosaurus himself that is out there right now. 25 inches tall, 19 inches from the tip of his tail to the tip of his toes. So again, gigantic size, which I really love. Now, this acquisition came out of two reasons. First and foremost, now you know me, I've been getting into the model kit thing for the past like year or some change, probably 2 years at this point. And I've been really gravitating more towards model kits. Don't get me wrong, I'm still an X Plus guy, you know what I'm saying? But I have gravitated more into getting more model kits, because again, X Plus has not done every single monster that is out there. But model kits, in a lot of ways, cover monsters that X Plus can't, you know? And the one model kit studio that I'm a huge fan of is, of course, Monster Maker 28. Oh my God, their sculpts are so amazing. And I was able to acquire some for myself. during my time as a collector. Like, I got myself the 30 centimeter Cybot 1984 Godzilla model kit. Woo! Oh, that thing is yeah, that thing is amazing. It sure is. I'm looking at it right now, and yeah, he is just that. He is amazing. Well, how about the 1975 30 centimeter model kit of Godzilla from 1975? Coincidentally, the same film that Titanosaurus comes from. That model kit of the 30 centimeter 1975 Godzilla from Monster Maker 28, again, a stellar model kit, you know what I'm saying? Well, how about the entire lineup of GMK? You know, the GMK Godzilla, Baragon, Mothra, and Ghidorah. You know, they were originally model kits, but X Plus since has readapted them into vinyl figures, excuse me. So those are just a few examples of Monster Maker 28 sculpted figures or collectibles or model kits I was able to acquire for myself. But the one model kit I've always wanted to get for myself was Titanosaurus. Yes, Monster Maker 28 did an amazing, stellar model kit of Titanosaurus. And that's one kit that, again, I've always wanted to get in my collection. Not to mention that Monster Maker 28 kits, if you don't get them when they are first dropped, after they drop for pre-order, trying to get them in the aftermarket after the fact is really, really hard to do because they are so sought after, they are so rare. And Titanosaurus, I would say, is probably one of the rarest that is out there. But I've always wanted to get that model kit, but for some reason, I have not been able to find that kit, you know what I'm saying? Or if I do find it, it is horribly overpriced, quite frankly. Then fast forward, I want to say this year around April or May, and I think I just got one of my model kits that Marcellus has made for me. As a matter of fact, yes, it was the 84 that he made for me. And I was, you know, basking in his glory and all that good stuff. And one day he and I were talking, and he asked me, he was like, look, are you into 3D printed statues? And honestly, I'm aware of 3D printed statues, but I have not been too high up on them because some the 3D printed statues look good and some 3D printed statues don't look so good, quite frankly. So I kind of been like kind of iffy on doing that, you know what I mean? But he asked me, he was like, look, are you into 3D printed statue? Would you be willing to go into a 3D printed statue? And I was like, yeah, it just depends on what monster, you know what I'm saying? It has to be the right monster, right? Then he asked me, like, if you could make any monster in a gigantic size scale, what would it be? And I tried to avoid saying the usual suspects, right? Like, let's say the 1954 Godzilla or the 1962 Godzilla or the 1964 Godzilla, quite frankly. Yes, I know that's a shock because, you know, I love the 64. But personally, I have a gigantic representation pretty much of all those Godzilla incarnations. Quite frankly, I got a gigantic sized version of King Kong. I got a gigantic sized version of King Ghidorah. I got a gigantic sized version of Ultraman. I got a gigantic sized version of one of the Power Rangers Megazords. So I wanted to pick a monster or a character that has, for one, not had a gigantic sized collectible version of itself, or something that I really, 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 really love. Like, what obscure monster that may not get a lot of love from a lot of people, but I still love it nonetheless, and I would like to have a gigantic size representation of it. And the first monster that popped into my mind was, of course, Titanosaurus, because y'all know I'm a huge fan of Titanosaurus. I love this monster. I love the design. I love the suit. I love the movie of terror, Mechagodzilla. So when he asked me that, I was like, Titanosaurus, period, point blank. He was like, okay, let me work something out. And then I think he contacted Kenny about, you know, getting the sculpt right or whatever. And this been going on for like maybe 2 months at that point, like between April and May, going into June, I think. And we were going back and forth on the sculpt because there were times where Marcellus would send me a picture of what the sculpt would look like. And I was like, well, if you could change this and you could change that, you know, we did as much nitpicking as we did to try to get the sculpt right. Because again, as much money as I put into this thing, I want this thing to be perfect. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So after months, you know, a couple of months of going back and forth with the sculpt, we finally got the sculpt right, and he had the sculpt sent off to Kenny. He printed off the pieces. He sent the pieces to Marcellus. And between Marcellus, his wife Ledejeuner, and of course Miss Tamiko Richardson, I think one of his sons actually helped out painting this thing. They were able to put this thing all together, and he brought it actually to G-Fest. As a matter of fact, I think another artist named John Brimley. He also got his hand on this sculpt, and he actually made one for J.D. Lee's, the guy that used to run G-Fest, and they gave this to him in a special presentation at G-Fest as a surprise. But I knew Marcellus was bringing mine to G-Fest, you know what I'm saying? And when I unwrapped it in the model room after they gave J.D. Lee's his, I was so floored by this. And I'm going around G-Fest with this thing in my hand and my phone in my other hand, because in the phone I'm playing the theme of Terror of Mechagodzilla, and I got Titanosaurus in the other hand. I'm walking through the convention, and almost every other person that saw me was like, "Hey, look at Titano. Hey, where'd you get that? Hey, who made that? Blah, 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 blah." I think Marcellus sent this off to me. No, he didn't send it off to me. I was able to go up and see him most recently in Columbus, because that's where he's from, Columbus, Ohio. And I was able to grab it for myself and bring it back home. And that's how I got my hands on this gigantic statue, 3D printed statue of Titanosaurus. Let me just tell you, I'm a fan. Like, again, I may not be going heavily into the 3D printed stuff, but this has opened my eyes to, like, you know what? 3D printed statues, if done right, if built right, if sculpted right, if painted right, they could be a wonderful thing. And as you can see here, this thing is so wonderful. Yes, yes, yes. So let's get up close and personal with this guy. Again, this is a gigantic size 3D printed statue of Titanosaurus right off the bat. The sculpt looks great. As a matter of fact, while Marcellus and I were going back and forth with the sculpt, because, I collect also the total special effects books, movie series books of certain monsters that the Godzilla store has made. They have made a whole bunch of picture books of, classic monsters from Toho, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's Godzilla, various incarnations of Godzilla. They've done King Ghidorah, they've done Rodan, they've done Mothra, they've done Mechagodzilla, Space Godzilla, Biollante, Orga, pretty much all the monsters from Toho Studios. And they have these picture books where they show, behind the scenes photos of actually, them building the suit, the suit in action, and behind the scenes photos that you may not see on the internet, quite frankly. And in a way, they're kind of like reference tools. Like, if you want to make a statue like this, those books are like a great tool to do that. And so while Marcellus and I were going back and forth with the sculpt with Titanosaurus, I was consulting with the Titanosaurus book, which is an awesome book. And if you're a Titanosaurus fan, you need that book in your collection, just saying. But I'm going into the into the book of Titanosaurus. I'm looking at the photos of the suit, when they made the suit and all that good stuff. When they made the suit around the time of the movie of Terror of Mechagodzilla. And looking at the end product now, it's like, you can tell, like, this looks exactly like the suit, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? It looks exactly like the suit. And again, going by those photographs, I think Kenny, as well as Marcellus, did a great job actually getting the sculpt right on this thing. You got one arm up, one arm down, which looks absolutely great, because his arms was kind of in that position anyway throughout the majority of the film. So I like the sculpt on the hands, as well as the claws, whatever. The chest, oh my God, the chest looks really good. The abdomen looks really good. All Titanosaurus, that is a staple of Titanosaurus, that iconic chest, if you will, as well as his abdomen, you know what I'm saying? The toes sculpted really well, the 3-toe scheme, whatever, looks really good. The tail, oh my God, I love the tail. I love the fish fan tail of Titanosaurus here. Now, there was an option I probably could have done, something different with when it came to the tail sculpt. I probably could have had Titanosaurus with the tail closed, quite frankly. But I actually prefer Titanosaurus with the tail open, you know what I'm saying? I think it gives a more dynamic look with the fan open like this, quite frankly, even though it wasn't open the majority of the time in the film, quite frankly. But I actually prefer Titanosaurus with this look of the fan open. So the fan looks really good, you know what I'm saying? The strands in the fan look really good, sculpted really well, looks awesome. The one big giant fan on his back looks really good, again, sculpted really well. The fan on top of his head, as well as the 2 fans on the side of his head, look really good. The antenna look really good. The sculpted teeth, the teeth look really good. And the individual sculpted teeth, if you will. The eyes look good. Even the tongue sticking out, which is again, is kind of like a staple when it comes to Titanosaurus, with his tongue sticking out like that. So the overall sculpt of this statue looks really good. Even the bumps, which is probably the last thing I'm going to cover here when it comes to the sculpt. That the bumps, that's the one thing that I think that really separates this suit design from a lot of different Godzilla suits or monster suits, if you will. It's just the attention to detail of the suit of Titanosaurus looks really good, you know what I'm saying? And it makes them stand out, which is kind of kind of like weird when you think about it, because the 70s films, they were filled with oddity creatures. You know, you have Hedra, you have Gigan, you have King Caesar, you have Megalon, you know, whatever. Titanosaurus is probably like a normal monster in comparison to those. Now, don't get me wrong, all those other suits, again, Hedra, Gigan, Megalon, King Caesar, you know what I'm saying? They were great, 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 great suits. But I think Titanosaurus was like one of the better ones, quite frankly, because of the attention to detail on the suit with the bumps and all that good stuff. And, you know, the sculpt here with the statue is replicated that with the various bumps of the black bumps all over Titanosaurus' body. Looks really, really good. So again, from top to bottom, the sculpt looks absolutely phenomenal. Now to go towards the paint job, which again, that's where Marcellus, his wife Ledej, and Miss Richardson, and I think one of his sons helped out. And again, this looked like this was made by professionals. And in my opinion, Marcellus and his team are professionals, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? This looks so professionally done. You know what I'm saying? The paint job, you know, you have the various reds and the the orange and the black on the bumps, and you know the black highlights on the base of the toes and his claws, you know, whatever. Looks really good. Has some shades of yellow, you know, here and there on the statue. Looks really, really good. Like the paint job is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. You know, you have the black and white, you know, color on the antenna. You know, they have the yellowish eyes, you know, with that black pupil in the middle, that sinister pupil of Titanosaurus, you know, whatever. You have that yellow streak going over Titanosaurus' eye, which is again something that was on the suit, you know, in addition to again the chest as well as the tongue sticking out. That looks really good. You know, the teeth are painted really well. The tongue is painted really well. Oh my God, the attention to detail, like on his neck, like the front of his neck, is again going towards his chest and his abdomen here. Just the overall just look of the paint job. Again, what I just mentioned earlier when it comes to Marcellus and his skills, it's like each sculpt that he's made me, or each project that he has made for me. Like he continues to get better and better and better, and that's a sign of a great artist. You know what I'm saying? That he tends to learn from his mistakes. He learns from techniques from other artists and stuff, and he also makes some techniques of his own. So he's able to learn and just basically just grow and prosper into an awesome artist of his own. And what you see right here is a culmination of that. This is a culmination of Marcellus at work as an artist. Now, remember a long time ago when he asked me, or when he talked to me about that this was something that he was going to do, that he was going to venture into model kit building and painting. And I was like, hey, if you got the skills for it, then go for it. He was like, yeah, but I'm kind of green, you know, I'm starting out, you know, I want to do some stuff, but you know, I'm just kind of like really apprehensive about doing it. I was like, man, just go for it. You know what I'm saying? Just go for it. And I'm sure whatever you have in you that you want to showcase will be basically replicated in your work. And again, what he has done so far, not just for me, but he's also got other clients out there. And I can tell you right now, we all are satisfied with the work that guy has put in. And in my opinion, you have a culmination of that, quite frankly. I'm kind of torn between this one and the 84 that he built and painted for me, on which one is my favorite piece that he has done for me. Because the 84 is awesome too. Don't get it twisted. The 84, the gigantic size 84 from Tenjitsu Crafts, yeah, that thing is amazing. But I'm kind of torn whether Titanosaurus is better or the 84. Either way, again, in my opinion, I think that is the peak of what Marcellus Winters has done in terms of his work. The 84 as well as Titanosaurus here. But I think a strong case can be made for Titanosaurus. So again, thank you to Marcellus and Ledej and Tamiko and Kenny for again putting all your input and all your awesome talents into making this statue a reality, quite frankly. And I cannot thank you enough. I really can't thank you enough. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, this thing's so amazing. So from top to bottom, sculpt wise, paint job wise, sheer presence, you know what I'm saying? This thing is so amazing. Now, if you're probably asking or probably wondering, are you able to get this for yourself? And that's the thing. Marcellus is only making a handful of these. So I can't say he's going to make like a large quantity of these. And at the time of this recording, he's only making a certain number right now. Then he's going to stop, because a lot of detail and a lot of work goes into making this thing, or making something like this, quite frankly. In addition to him being a pastor and other responsibilities that he has, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of hard for him to devote himself to making like a large quantity of these, quite frankly. So he's only making a select few at this time. But he did say that in the future, once he gets all of his projects cleared up and once he got more free time on his hands, he would be willing to, you know, print more of these and paint them and sell them if you're interested. You know what I'm saying? But I highly suggest you hit up Marcellus Winters on Facebook and ask him that, and then, you know, y'all go from there. But again, if you want a gigantic size quality piece of Titanosaurus, especially if you're a fan of the monster as well as the movie, look no further than this guy right here, because this thing is so well worth it. And again, thank you to Marcellus and Ledej and Tamiko and Kenny for making this happen. I really do appreciate it. Now, let's do two size comparisons. And again, there's not too many gigantic size versions of Titanosaurus out there. Probably none, to be honest with you. But you know what? Let's bring up a size comparison where he goes up against a gigantic size version of Godzilla. Now, it's not from the same era as Titanosaurus, but I kind of believe that this Godzilla kind of like took a little inspiration from Titanosaurus, and I'll tell you more about that in this first size comparison. So let's bring up the X Plus Gigantic Series Standard Edition of the 1989 Godzilla, the Biogoji, up against the awesome 3D printed statue, gigantic size statue of Titanosaurus in this first size comparison. So let's do that, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Woo! Oh God, this is great. This is so great. I'm sorry for starting off the size comparison marking out like this, but I'm sorry. Just seeing these two together is, yeah, kind of took my breath away. Oh God, all right. Welcome to the first size comparison. And again, alongside the gigantic size 3D printed statue of Titanosaurus, again, we have the X Plus gigantic size statue figure, of the 1989 Godzilla. Now, again, I know this Godzilla was not the same Godzilla that fought Titanosaurus in 1975. But I put this size comparison together for two reasons. One, just to really show how big and gigantic size Titanosaurus is in comparison to, this is basically the biggest X Plus figure, at least the tallest one that X Plus has ever done in the gigantic 89 here. So I wanted to show you how big, at least how tall Titanosaurus is in comparison to Godzilla. And as you can see here, again, 25 inches tall because of the fin on top of his head. Even his head, even without the fin, he still towers over the 89 Godzilla. And even though, again, this is not really a fair comparison because the Heisei Godzilla was by far more powerful than the Showa version of Godzilla, and I also say any Showa monster that Godzilla fought, quite frankly. So this fight, honestly, probably wouldn't be fair, but if Titanosaurus was beefed up to combat the Heisei Godzilla, I say this would be a good fight to see. But the second reason also I want to put these two together is, in my opinion, I've always said that the 89/91 Godzilla, in my opinion, took his design from Titanosaurus in a way. Like when you look at both of them, they're both are similar in the fact that both of them have like long necks. Both of them, like if you look at their back fins, the way their back fins are positioned on their body, especially Godzilla, you know, you have like the small back fin on the back of his neck, then you have the big gigantic size one, then they get smaller in size as they go down his back, kind of similar to the back fin of Titanosaurus, quite frankly. And you know, you have the big buffed up chest between the two, quite frankly. So again, I tend to think that the 89/91 Godzilla took its design from Titanosaurus. At least it was inspired by the design of Titanosaurus. So again, that's really the main two reasons why I want to put these two together. Again, I know this Godzilla didn't fight Titanosaurus, but you can't tell me that seeing these two together is not an awesome shot, because it is. You know what I'm saying? So why don't you let me know in the comment section, you know, if Titanosaurus was able to combat the Heisei Godzilla, would he be able to hold his own, or will the Heisei Godzilla go through his opposition like he has done so many times before? But either way, it will still be a good fight nonetheless. Alright, so that's it with the first size comparison between Titanosaurus and the 1989 gigantic Godzilla. Oh, this thing is so amazing. But you know what? This is not the only gigantic size figure from X Plus I'm going to put with Titanosaurus. There's a certain other one that I have in my collection that I think would fit perfectly with this Titanosaurus, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's bring them up right now in the final size comparison. Let's bring in the X Plus Gigantic Series Rick exclusive edition of the awesome 1974 Mechagodzilla in this final size comparison. So let's do that, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Okay, folks, here we are with the final size comparison, and oh my god, this looks so great. This is epic. Oh my god, seeing these two together. Oh my god, the awesome, evil, destructive tag team is about to lay waste to Tokyo in the epic finale of the Showa Godzilla film series. Oh my god, and yes, alongside the epic gigantic size 3D printed statue of Titanosaurus, I have his partner in crime of sorts, in the X Plus Gigantic Series Rick exclusive edition of the 1974 Mechagodzilla. Woo! They look so great. Now I know y'all saying that this is not the same Mechagodzilla or the proper Mechagodzilla from the film, because it's from the previous film of 1974. But until we do get a proper gigantic size Mechagodzilla 75, which I highly advocate X Plus to do, because I love that design of Mechagodzilla from 75. But until that happens, the 74 will be a great stand-in. And to be honest with you, unless you're a hardcore Godzilla fan, you probably can't even tell the differences between the 74 and 75 Mechagodzilla. Yes, there are differences, but unless you're a fan, you probably won't even know. But until that happens, again, Mechagodzilla here from 74, from the X Plus Gigantic Series, will be a great stand-in to go up against Titanosaurus. And that was one of the things I wanted to make clearer with Marcellus when we were talking about the project. That I wanted Titanosaurus to be gigantic size, but I also wanted him to be perfectly in scale with the X Plus Gigantic Series 74 Mechagodzilla. And as you can see here, he is perfectly in scale with Mechagodzilla, because again, he was taller than Mechagodzilla in the film. He was basically this taller in comparison to Mechagodzilla in the film, as well as Godzilla. So this is actually, you know, size accurate, you know what I'm saying? Aside from the fact that the sculpt is perfect and the paint job is perfect, but again, the size is perfect in comparison to Mechagodzilla here. When I got the gigantic Mechagodzilla in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, I've always wanted something to go up against him collectible-wise, you know what I'm saying? Specifically something from the 70s era, to be honest with you. And after waiting for so long, I think I finally found that perfect piece to go up against Mechagodzilla here, and it looks absolutely great. Even the gigantic size model kit of the Tenjitsu Crafts 1971/72 Godzilla kit that I was able to acquire for myself last year, even when you put him up against Titanosaurus, or when you put him up against both Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla, they actually look great together. And you know what? There is a promotional photograph of that version of Godzilla go up against Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla in a promotional photograph of the film, even though technically it's not the same Godzilla that fought these monsters in the film, but you can still kind of recreate that in a way, you know what I'm saying? But until then, this is so great, and this is probably the setup I would go moving forward with Titanosaurus. So again, if you want this thing, please contact Marcellus Winters on Facebook, and I'm sure he will hook you up. But whether you have him standing alone, up against other Titanosaurus pieces, up against the 89 in the previous size comparison in a fantasy scenario, or up against Mechagodzilla here, you got some great options on your hands. But get the model kit, at least get the statue in your collection, and you will undoubtedly get, in my opinion, not only the biggest, but probably one of the best collectibles of Titanosaurus that's out there right now. There's no question about that. Yes. So let's go to the final commentary portion of the video. My final thoughts of the awesome gigantic size 3D printed statue of Titanosaurus from its epic appearance from 1975's Terror of Mechagodzilla. So let's do that, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Okay, folks, I'm back on my final thoughts of the awesome gigantic size 3D printed statue of everybody's favorite super dinosaur from Terror of Mechagodzilla in the awesome Titanosaurus. Oh my god, 10 out of 10. Sculpt wise is perfect, paint job wise is perfect. Oh my god, I couldn't ask for a better Titanosaurus, you know what I'm saying? And again, starting out, you know, from the get-go, I wasn't really too sold on the 3D printed thing, you know, when it comes to collectibles, you know, whatever. But Marcellus was able to convince me, not only with the pristine sculpt here, but the way him, his wife, Ms. Richardson, I think, again, one of his sons, they put all their heart into this thing, and they are so talented in what they do. Again, this looks professionally made, and in my opinion, this was professionally made. So again, I am so happy and ecstatic to have this thing in my collection. Oh my God, this is so amazing. And you know what? I have a few Titanosaurus pieces in my collection because, you know, again, I'm a huge fan of this monster. You know, I have the X Plus Death for Real, the 25 centimeter, the 30 centimeter. Again, I've always wanted the Monster Maker 28 model kit of it. But I have this, so I can just let the model kit thing go, to be honest with you, because I think this is better than the Monster Maker 28 kit. Just my opinion. But again, this is such a stellar piece, you know what I'm saying? And I hope I will be included in that Titanosaurus fan club that's headed up by Nick Sides, Godzilla Fan Freaks, Everett Grondin, and Eric Stope, you know, whatever. I may not have as many Titanosaurus pieces as them, but I do have the biggest. So that should automatically let me into your group. Just let me in, please. Let me in your group. I won't mind. I won't cause such a fuss. But again, this is such a great piece. And again, as you saw in the size comparisons, would you have him up against, you know, various X Plus Gigantic Series figures or Gigantic Series model kits or Gigantic size model kits, excuse me, of 70s Godzilla characters put up against Titanosaurus. You know, it is such an amazing piece, a show-stealing piece, if you will. And again, I'm so glad to have this in my collection. This really is a show-stealing piece. And again, it's of a monster that we don't have any gigantic size collectibles of, you know what I'm saying? And I think that should be changed, you know, to be honest with you. And again, in a couple of years, the movie is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And there's no guarantee that any company will go after a gigantic size sculpt of Titanosaurus and make it. You know what I'm saying? So there's no guarantee that will happen. But I do have one, and again, if you want one, contact Marcellus Winters on Facebook, and I'm sure he will hook you up as he has done me, and for a select few of the ones that he is doing at the time of this recording. And I'm a testament. This is amazing. And again, does it top the 84 he did for me? I don't know. I really don't know, because that 84 is awesome, to be honest with you. I would say he is neck and neck with the 84, but in my opinion, definitely one of his best work, if not his best work, that Marcellus has ever done, in addition to his wife and Miss Richardson and all that good stuff. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate it. Now, before we get up out of here, let's talk about Titanosaurus just a little bit before we get up out of here. Now, again, y'all already know I'm a huge fan of this monster. I'm a huge fan of the movie of Terror Mechagodzilla. And I'm going to tell you my three favorite moments involving Titanosaurus from this film. Now, before we get into the moments, now, it's really, again, it's very ironic that in this part in the 70s, which was the final film in the 70s, even though they didn't know it at the time, but by default, Terror Mechagodzilla became the final film in the Show of Film series. And it's kind of ironic and kind of funny that in the 70s films, we were introduced to a lot of abnormal or oddity creatures with Hedra, Gigan, Megalon, King Caesar, you know what I'm saying? And it's funny that the final film of this epic series would end with a villain that would be somewhat very similar to Godzilla. Titanosaurus and Godzilla share a lot of similarities if you really think about it. In the original film of the original Gojira, the first scene is Godzilla attacking a ship and setting it on fire. In the opening scene of Terror Mechagodzilla, we see Titanosaurus attacking another sea vessel, a submarine at sea. You know what I'm saying? Both Titanosaurus and Godzilla can both thrive on land and underwater. You know what I'm saying? They're both great fighters. They both have risen out of Tokyo Bay to attack Tokyo. You know what I'm saying? So there are a lot of great similarities between both Titanosaurus and Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of fitting that he will be the last villain in the Showa film period, you know what I'm saying? But my top three favorite moments involving Titanosaurus would go as follows. Number one, I think the opening scene when we first see Titanosaurus, when he attacks the ship, or when he attacks the submarine, I should say. Again, I think that was a great way to open the film, you know what I'm saying? Because you open it with a brand new monster, and because again, it was unprecedented. We didn't know anything about Titanosaurus. We didn't know what he could do or anything like that. All we know is like when he rises up out of the water and he attacks the submarine, it shows from that scene that he has a vicious side, you know what I'm saying? And that was, even though it was a short scene, that was more than enough to hook you in, you know what I'm saying? Because you know eventually we would get to Mechagodzilla and Godzilla, but the majority of the movie kind of centers around Titanosaurus. He, in a lot of ways, carries the movie when Godzilla and Mechagodzilla are not around. And that is really, ironically, the majority of the movie. So in a lot of ways, Titanosaurus does carry the movie. And in my opinion, when you compare him up against King Caesar in the 74, in the previous film, kind of like 75, where again, this film kind of revolves more so around Titanosaurus. In 74, you can argue when they're not focused on Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, the majority of the story focuses on King Caesar and building him up. But I will argue that between the two, I think in terms of the build-up story involving the third monster, I think Titanosaurus was better built up than King Caesar. Nothing against King Caesar. I love King Caesar. But they did all that stuff to build him up, and he doesn't really do that much when we do finally see him. With Titanosaurus is the exact opposite, because again, he does carry the movie in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? But that opening scene is one of my most favorite moments involving Titanosaurus in the film of Terror of Mechagodzilla, okay? My second favorite moment is when he finally attacks Tokyo, you know what I'm saying? Again, it kind of shades of the original Godzilla attack. As a matter of fact, I think Titanosaurus rose up in Shinagawa, which was where the first Godzilla first attacked Japan in 1954. Again, going with that similarities, if you will. So seeing Titanosaurus just go through the city and see the military try to stop him and they are unsuccessful, again, kind of harkens back to the original Godzilla attack. And it's fun to see see Titanosaurus go through the city, destroy buildings, destroy the military before Godzilla eventually shows up to confront him. So that whole attack sequence of Titanosaurus, you know, taking center stage before Godzilla shows up, before Mechagodzilla shows up, him giving that moment to attack Tokyo on his own in that first attack, I thought was a great scene. That's my second favorite moment involving Titanosaurus from Terror of Mechagodzilla. And the third final moment is when the final battle. Now, again, the final battle consisted of three monsters: Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, and Titanosaurus. But there are a lot of times Mechagodzilla is dormant in that fight. He's mostly in the background. He doesn't really do anything, which is one of the things I kind of criticize about Terror of Mechagodzilla. I love the film, but I have to say one of the downfalls about this film is the performance of Mechagodzilla, ironically. But Titanosaurus makes up for that, because in a lot of ways he does do a lot of the fighting between him and Mechagodzilla up against Godzilla. But during those moments where Godzilla and Titanosaurus are fight one-on-one, there's like a sequence where Godzilla gets the better of Titanosaurus. That was a fun sequence there. But then later on, Titanosaurus gets the better of Godzilla by himself, with Mechagodzilla in the background. That moment where Titanosaurus grabs Godzilla by his snout and punches him, and the suit goes flying up in the air. It's like those two moments, at least those moments involving Godzilla and Titanosaurus going at it one-on-one, is my third favorite moment. And in a lot of ways, you kind of forget Mechagodzilla is in the movie because he's barely in the fight. You know what I'm saying? Only when Titanosaurus is in trouble does Mechagodzilla intervene. But a lot of times it's just Godzilla and Titanosaurus going at it, you know what I'm saying? And it was fun seeing those two fight, you know what I'm saying? It really was a good fight. It was a back and forth fight in a way, more so a draw in a lot of respects. And that just shows how tough Titanosaurus was, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't a monster that was designed to be beat down to Godzilla like Anguirus was to Mechagodzilla in 74. No, he was able to hold his own up against Godzilla, and I will always appreciate that about Titanosaurus. Whenever you can hold your own up against Godzilla, I think that's a really cool thing. So those are my top three favorite moments involved with Titanosaurus. You know, the opening scene, his first attack on Tokyo, and when he confronts Godzilla in the final battle, when him and Godzilla go at it with Mechagodzilla in the background. Those are my top three favorite moments involving Titanosaurus from Terror of Mechagodzilla. So why don't you let me know in the comment section, what are your favorite top three, or what's your favorite moment involving Titanosaurus from Terror of Mechagodzilla, and so we can get some conversations going. But I'm sure what I said is pretty much no different than what you're going to say, because pretty much every moment involving Titanosaurus in the film is awesome. So whatever you choose, I'm not going to argue with that. But in the meantime, if you can contact Marcellus Winters and get you a deal on this guy, you will not be disappointed. In my opinion, one of the best, undoubtedly the biggest, but one of the best collectibles of Titanosaurus himself that is out there right now with this 3D printed statue. And you can only go to Marcellus Winters to get this. You know what I'm saying? You can't go anywhere else. Just go to him if you want one. And I promise you, he will hook you up as he has done me. Yes, yes, yes. So that pretty much concludes my review of the awesome, gigantic size 3D printed statue of everybody's favorite super dinosaur from Terror of Mechagodzilla in the awesome Dr. Mifune evil controlled Titanosaurus. If you have any questions, comment down in the comment section. Hit me on Facebook via Ledejeuner Chambers. We definitely go from there. Yes, once again. Oh my God, this thing's so amazing. Again, thank you to Kenny. Thank you to Marcellus. Thank you to his wife, Ledej. Thank you to Miss Richardson. Thank you all for making this happen for me. Again, one of my most prized acquisitions for myself in the year of 2023. And since I'll be closing the channel down in the next couple of months, I want to get this video out there for y'all. You know what I'm saying? But again, this is such a stellar piece. So contact Marcellus Renters if you want one for yourself. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed, especially if you're a fan of Titanosaurus and or the movie of terror of Mechagodzilla. Yes, yes, yes. So let's get the model kit coverage going, yes, in the next video with the awesome resin model kit, courtesy of the Galloping Ghost Kaiju Kobo Model Kit Studio, sculpted by my great friend Burley Vang in the awesome 1972 Godzilla from his epic appearance from Godzilla vs. Gigan. Yes, that will be the next video on Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. I can't wait to get that out for y'all, so please stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, get this guy. Get this awesome 3D printed statue of everybody's favorite super dinosaur from 1975's Terror of Mechagodzilla in the awesome and epic Titanosaurus. Yes, yes, yes. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on this Figure Move review. All right? Y'all take it easy.